So good afternoon. My name is Marta, and today I'm going to talk about this topic, the influence of the national culture on the economy of a country. And this is a topic that has been studied throughout the years, and I believe it is a very interesting topic according to regarding this crisis that we are living today. And in this presentation, I'll tell you what organizational culture and national culture are. And I will also tell you how can we create and sustain a culture. And I'll make a quick analysis on Ofsted studies about the national culture of Portugal and the national culture of the United States of America. To conclude my presentation, I'll give you my suggestions that I believe that can readapt the national culture of Portugal. Well, according to Stephen Robbins and Timothy Judge, organizational culture refers to a system of shared meaning held by members that distinguishes the organization from other organizations. In other words, organizational culture is a set of assumptions shared and taken by a group as truthful. And these assumptions will influence the way that the employees will think and behave inside the organization. Regarding the national culture, it can be explained as being the motives, values, beliefs, identities and interpretations or meanings of significant events that are shared by members of a community, which result from their common experiences and that are transmitted throughout the generations. After these two definitions, I believe it becomes easier to understand that culture is not something that changes every day. It is something that needs to be created and sustained, and it takes its time to be developed. But the first thing we need to think when we think about the organization, we need to think about the founder of the organization. That's how the culture actually begins, because it is the founder that has the vision of what organization should be. So the culture creation occurs in three ways. First, founders hire and keep only employees who think and feel the same way they do. Second, they indoctrinate and socialize these employees to their way of thinking and feeling. And finally, the founder's own behavior acts as a role model that encourages employees to identify with them and thereby internalize their beliefs, values, and assumptions. When the organization succeeds, the founder's vision becomes seen as a primary determinant of that success. At this point, the founder's entire personality becomes embedded in the culture of the organization. The second point, keeping a culture alive. Well, once a culture is in place, practices within the organization serve to maintain it by giving employees a set of similar experiences. For example, many human resource practices reinforce the organization's culture. The selection process, the performance evolution criteria, the training and development activities, and promotion procedures ensure that those hired fit in with the culture and reward those who support it and penalize those who challenge it. After these 2 points, I believe it becomes easy to understand why the national culture influences the economy, because if the behavior of the founder will influence the way the employees will behave, and these founders are influenced by a national culture, depending on the country they are from, this will change the entire dynamic of the company, because employees will look to their leader as a model, so they tend to repeat its behaviors. And several studies have proved that the national culture has a greater impact on employees than the organizational culture. Being this so, we can understand that the national culture influences the way employees behave and consequently their productivity, which will influence the economy of the country, because if companies increase their productivity, they will become more competitive, and this makes me believe that exportations would grow. Now, looking at the study of Ofsted on the national culture of Portugal, we'll be looking at 5 dimensions. The first one, the power distance, and the second one, individualism, then masculinity, uncertainty avoidance, and long-term orientation. According to Ofsted, power distance is defined as the extent to which the less powerful members of institutions and organizations within a country expect and accept the power distributed unequally. And Portugal scores reflects that hierarchical distance is accepted, and those holding the most powerful positions are admitted to have privileges for their positions. So employees actually are expecting the boss to take the decisions, the hardest ones. Now the individualism. In individualist societies, people are supposed to look after themselves and their direct family only. In collectivist societies, people belong in groups that take care of them in exchange of loyalty. Portugal, in comparison with the other European countries, is collectivist. And this is manifest in a long-term commitment to the member group, be that a family, extended family, or extended relationships. It is very normal in Portugal that people ask for your family, even in your work, and what are you going to do on the weekend, this kind of personal things. And in the masculinity dimension, it is very hard to distinguish these two societies, the masculinity and the feminine. The masculine society, they usually say that people work to live. Live to work, sorry. And in the feminine, they work to live. That's the big difference. And Portugal is a feminine country. Now looking to the uncertainty avoidance. This dimension has to do with the way that people fear the future and the fact that we can't really control it. And if there is a dimension that characterizes Portugal, is this one, because we really try to avoid everything that is not certain for us. And the countries that exhibit high uncertainty avoidance maintain rigid codes of belief and behavior and are intolerant of unorthodox behavior and ideas. In this culture, there is an emotional need for rules. That's why we are so bureaucratic. People tend to be busy and work hard, and security is an important element in individual motivation. And finally, the long-term orientation. Portugal has a short-term orientation culture. So societies with short-term orientation generally exhibit great respect for traditions, and they are impatient for achieving quick results and a strong concern with establishing the truth. And now try to memorize this graphic, and now you're going to see the one from the United States, and you see that everything changed. It is totally different. The United States, they score a low power distance, which underscores the American premise of liberty and justice for all. Both manager and employees expect to be consulted and information is shared frequently. At the same time, communication is informal, direct, and participative. According to the individualism, the United States is a highly individualist culture. Yes. The expectation is that people look after themselves and their own families, there is also a high degree of geographical mobility in the United States, and most Americans are used to doing business with strangers. Now about the uncertainty, the masculinity. The United States is considered a masculine society. Behavior in school and work are based on the shared values that people should try to be the best they can and that the winner takes all. As a result, Americans will tend to display and talk freely about their success and achievements in life. Here again, another basis for hiring and promoting decisions in the workplace. Typically, Americans live to work, as I said before, so that they can earn monetary rewards and attain higher status based on how good one can be. And about the uncertainty avoidance, American society is what one described as uncertainty accepting. They don't feel they don't fear the future. So there is a larger degree of acceptance of new ideas, innovative products, and a willingness to try something new and something different. Finally, the long-term orientation. The United States has a short-term oriented culture. As a result, it is a culture focused on traditions and fulfilling social obligations. This also drives individuals to strive for quick results in the workplace. Now, my suggestions in order to readapt the Portuguese culture, they are not easy to adapt because it is something very subjective and it will not change from one day to another. But the first one is change the education since the primary school. And why is that so? Because, whatever. It was supposed the monkey to become a man, but it's not working. Because I've been in England for 6 months, and there I had a model that was called film history. And the teacher kept asking us things like, what do you think about this? Or why do you think this happened? And I was asking myself all the time, why do I really need to have an opinion about something that have already happened? I mean, it's history. It doesn't really matter. But all the other English students, they had an opinion about everything. And being there, I realized that in Portugal, teachers usually tell us the things, and we learn it, and we try to memorize the most we can, and then in the examinations, we just go there and we put everything there, but we didn't really think about it, about the topics. We don't know what we think about it. That's why, at least I talk for me, when we are in the university, if teacher asks us, what do you think about being an European, what do you like being an European? And people just look to the books, pretending that they are writing something very important that can't wait, so they avoid the eye contact and they stay there until someone says something, because we don't really have opinions about things. And I think it is something that we have to develop. And I think that's why I said primary school, because I believe it is something that begins from when we start learning, and it's when we can develop our critical thought. And the other suggestion that I have is creating more exchange programs, but not only for students. I believe it is very important for students, of course, and I think we should try to look for countries that have such a different national culture, like Portugal and the United States. But I think it would be very interesting also to have exchange programs to teachers. I think it would be very helpful for both for the teacher and for the student, because it is such an experience, and I think the teacher that here asks about these questions would be very happy to have someone who actually answer to the questions. I think it would be very important. And then those teachers, both the ones that come from the United States to Portugal and Portugal to the United States, they could go to organizations and actually say how was it, the experience, and maybe organizations could take a few things that might be useful, and that's it. And the final question that I ask you, I mean, national culture is important, we have seen why, but it is also very important because nowadays it is the image that other countries will have from Portugal, and it is our way for promoting ourselves. And I think it is really important that we work on it, and we are the new generation, so we can do it. That's it. And